Hey, what's up, gang? Ken here from the Retro Toyscapades channel in Malaysia. I'm back with more vintage Masters of the Universe mini comic reviews, and tonight's review is for The Temple of Darkness. Now, I wanted to check out this story because the MOTU Origins Castle Grayskull that came out just included a free exclusive Sorceress figure that's based off her appearance in this particular story. So let's check it out. Now, the story begins with the sorceress flying calmly through some place called the Sands of Time. She's blissfully unaware of her surroundings when suddenly she's brutally snatched from the skies through the evil magic of Skeletor, who keeps her prisoner within a pyramid-like structure known as the Temple of Darkness. Now, even held captive, the sorceress manages to send out a signal to He-Man and the Masters for help. Her magic seems to be strong enough to send out this telepathic cry for help, but it's not strong enough to free her from Skeletor's grip. Okay, it's a pretty sketchy use of magic here because her magic, as powerful as it is, can't be used to free herself, but can be used to send out word of a situation. All right, I mean that does involve some kind of magic. Okay, I mean if I was trapped someplace, there is no way that I could send out a message through my mind. I would need some kind of magical powers to be able to do that. But the sorceress is able to do that here, but not free herself. Okay, while Skeletor's magic, on the other hand, can hold her captive, but apparently can't stop her from communicating with the outside world. Okay, apparently Skeletor has the ability to see what everybody on the planet is doing, okay, at any given moment, because he's staring through this sort of vision pool, and it shows him that the Masters are racing over to the pyramid to save the sorceress. Now, if you notice, a lot of these stories in the mini comics have been triggered by the fact that Skeletor is able to just see what the good guys are doing. All right, every time the good guys are up to something somewhere across the planet, Skeletor is looking through some kind of a mirror or a reflection in the wall or something in the ground, or in this case a pool, and he's able to see just what they're up to. Okay, that is a pretty convenient plot device here, and I do wonder if there's any kind of limitations to his powers. I mean, is he able to see people, like, for instance, taking a bath? I don't know, man. I sure wouldn't want some skeleton figure checking me out while I'm in the shower, right? So, but apparently, this is just something that, is the easiest way for them to get the stories going. So in this case, Skeletor figures out that, the warriors are coming to save the sorceress, and he activates this scarab beetle by using this magical jewel of some kind, and he uses the power of the jewel combined with the scarab beetle to create a sandstorm. Okay, so the heroes face the first of their many challenges in their quest to save the sorceress, and the first one here is the sandstorm, but He-Man takes care of it real quick by using his power sword. He just uses a shield of some kind, and spins it around to create some kind of a tornado within the sandstorm, and then disperses it. Okay, it's kind of like using fire to fight fire. I don't know. Okay, but so He-Man takes care of the sandstorm real quick, and then Skeletor sends something else, okay, to take care of them. Skeletor sends the beetle itself, okay, the scarab beetle itself, only he's supersized it. Okay, so he's like made it like this massive, gigantic, building-sized beetle creature, and this thing is supposed to devour the Masters. But it looks impressive. The Masters are going up against this huge bug. But then what we find here is that He-Man takes care of it in just one single panel. Okay, it's like a single panel defeat here. Okay, the damn bug even makes a sound effect here that goes yow. I don't know if a bug can actually make a sound effect like that. All right, but that's the end of that bug. Okay, finally the heroes arrive at their destination. They arrive at the Temple of Darkness, and apparently they seem to know exactly what this thing is. Because apparently it's some place that's based off a myth of some kind, and it's said that the temple itself only appears every 300 years. Okay, apparently the temple just appears, materializes, someplace in the Sands of Time, every 300 years. And this is supposed to be something that these guys know because, I mean, they've lived for 300 years. Well, apparently, it's just a bit odd here because, I mean, clearly they would not have been able to see something like this in their lifetime, right? But they seem to know what it is instantly when they came across it, okay? But one of the characters here says that whenever the temple appears, evil things start to happen, okay? It's not very clear up to this point in the story if the things that are happening are actually a result of the temple being there, or is it just a result of Skeletor just using his magic? Because so far it kind of just seems like, Skeletor's just using his magic and chosen this particular location in order to do it from, okay? So the heroes crack their way into the temple and they find Skeletor waiting for them with the sorceress captive, and they demand that he release her, but of course, he ain't going to be doing anything like that. Instead, he sends another series of obstacles right at them. So Skeletor sends something at them called time demons, alright? And whoever designed this thing, I'm not sure if the guy, deserves an award for imaginativeness because it sure isn't what I expected. If somebody said, time demons, I think I like some kind of freaky looking smoky thing that maybe came out of an hourglass, like a sand timer or something like that, okay? But I wouldn't expect like a walking, talking sort of like alarm clock, okay? And these look like the alarm clocks that you had, at the side of your bed when you were a kid, okay? The same freaking alarm clocks that used to wake you up in the morning for school, all right? Only these are alive instead. Okay, actually, I did find it interesting that they use the clock hands as weapons, okay, as swords or sharp instruments of some kind to be used for the attack. It's pretty interesting. And He-Man and his friends now have to square off against these giant alarm clocks. What's also interesting here in the panel is that I kind of noticed that Tila has been in this pink wardrobe the entire time. And I don't think I've ever seen Tila depicted in this way in any sort of incarnation so far. Okay, so is this to be a variant action figure exclusive as well? Anyway, the action scene that follows is pretty interesting because you get to see all of the masters individually having a crack at these walking alarm clocks, and you get to see He-Man, you get to see Tila, you get to see Man-at-Arms, Ram-Man, each have their turn, and it's pretty satisfying. I gotta say, this is one of those action scenes that wasn't just done quickly in a single panel, alright? The Sorceress then informs He-Man telepathically that the source of all of Skeletor's power actually lies within the jewel, right? The jewel that's empowering the Scarab Beetle. And I guess it would have been more interesting if they had actually clarified that the jewel was something that was actually from the Temple of Darkness itself. I mean, it might be, but as it is, that particular part of the story isn't very clear, okay? So it just seems like Skeletor just happens to have this jewel on him, and he's able to use it to power up the Scarab Beetle. And before He-Man, in fact, manages to get his hands on the jewel, Skeletor manages to supersize the beetle creature again. Okay, this is the second time we're seeing the masters having to battle an oversized version of this Scarab Beetle. Okay, but what would be the point of doing this a second time when it was already defeated earlier? Okay, but we see another action sequence here where the giant beetle attacks them, and once again, He-Man defeats the beetle with just a single swipe of his power sword. He defeats the beetle, flips it over, in fact, and then causes the jewel on its back to slip off and just fall to the ground. All right, and apparently that just ends the battle. Okay, this is just done in barely a panel and a half. Okay, why even bother using the same action sequence? Okay, why even bother using the same enlarged version of the beetle two times in the same story? Skeletor here is actually stricken with grief at some possible harm having befallen his beetle creature. He says here, "My pet, my beauty, what have they done?" But actually all they did was just to, get the jewel off its back. Okay, the beetle's fine, right? I don't think masters are going to be, I don't think He-Man and his friends are the kind of people that would even kill a bug. Okay, and then at that convenient moment, it seems that the Temple of Darkness begins to disappear. It seems to dematerialize because the span allocated to it every 300 years appears to be up. Okay, time's up. Okay, the temple's got to go back to wherever it is it came from, and all that's left is just the lush greenery of Eternia that surrounds them. So Skeletor is defeated and he flees, of course, vowing revenge. This was just, I think, an excuse for an extended action sequence. All right, the whole story is just one long action sequence. Surprisingly, after the story is over, we actually get 3 more pages of story still left. Okay, and we get this almost full-bodied visual here of the all-white attired sorceress. Okay, now this is the image that has triggered the imagination of fans for decades, I assume. And also the image that has allowed toy companies the ability to save millions, presumably, by having an all-new version of a similar mold to be re-released with just one flat and single color tone, hence the Temple of Darkness Sorceress. Okay, however, there isn't an explanation here as to why she has this attire, and definitely nothing in the story that would tie in the venue itself to her costume. Okay, I mean, if I see a title header like Temple of Darkness Sorceress, I would immediately think that something must have happened in that temple they were talking about right there, okay, in order to have a sorceress that's specifically related to that place. But no, there's nothing in the story. In fact, other than just being a setting with a cool name, Temple of Darkness, I can't really see much in this story about how the temple was even that much of a threat. The story, in fact, ends with all the heroes in a sprawling, full-page pin-up shot, just running off towards more adventures. It kind of looks like they're the Justice League here, okay? And Ram Man is sort of like rocketing through the sky like he's Green Lantern, all right? When did that? I mean, I know Ram Man jumps high, but can he fly? Overall, I would say that the Temple of Darkness has good pacing, loads of action, too much action, in fact, and really good artwork. But the whole thing, as I said, is just a prop for an extended fight sequence between He-Man and Skeletor, and nothing of note really takes place, and there isn't really much of a story to tell. It is evident, like I said, by the fact that there's actually 3 pages to waste at the end just for some after-fighting chatter between the characters, all right? Generally, the rule is that once the bad guy is defeated, the story's over. Maybe get 1 or 2 more panels of characters babbling, but that's it, okay? In fact, in a lot of the other stories, you do feel the page restriction. The panels start to get smaller. There's definitely no room for splash pages and stuff like that. But in this one, you see that there's a lot of breathing space because there isn't much for the story to say. Anyway, as a standalone action setup that features MOTU characters, this one doesn't pretend to be anything else but action epic, okay? And it's pretty genius in that sense too. It's also an iconic story, okay, and a fan favorite, all right? The Temple of Darkness is definitely a story that fans keep referencing back to, and so let me know what you guys out there think of it, okay? Let me know what you guys think of the video. Thanks for joining me as always, and I'll be back again soon with more reviews. Thanks, guys.